to the F-35, you'll remember the letter from DND to Public Works Canada saying that DND needed a fifth generation fighter, without defining what fifth generation actually meant. We think that there has been some relationship to the procurement of fixed-wing search and rescue aircraft, in that, again, here the requirements have been drafted in the past in an unnecessarily narrow way that excludes other aircraft from consideration. So let's avoid the F-35 type of fiasco with these search and rescue planes. Focus on what are our actual needs here in Canada, and then have a fully competitive tender process with the Canadian-made planes able to compete and demonstrate their capabilities. That's what we're asking for. We don't want to see a process that is skewed in favor of more expensive foreign-made planes. Any other questions?
Is the government showing a leadership on this, or just letting the whole issue drift?
Well, as I said, this procurement process to replace Canada's fixed-wing search and rescue fleet began when Jean Chrétien was Prime Minister. And there was every expectation that we would have new aircraft by 2005. And it's now 2012. So has it been allowed to drift? Absolutely. In our view, this is unacceptable, because search and rescue is an absolutely essential function for Canadians, fulfilled primarily by the Canadian forces here in Canada. My colleague Stuart Webb mentioned the tragic case of the Inuit boy in Labrador earlier this year. All three search and rescue Hercules in Atlantic Canada were unable to deploy for mechanical reasons that would have been associated with the fact that those planes are almost half a century old. That's unacceptable. We need to have new planes. We need to have good planes. We need to have planes that are specific for search and rescue. And if the Department of National Defense confuses the issue by trying to load on other capabilities, the result is delay, and unfortunately, as we saw with the young Inuit boy, the very serious risk of loss of life.
Just a little more, please, on the politics of it. Thinking again about the F-35, where it seems very clear that the Prime Minister's office or others in Cabinet had some kind of influence on DND's process. You've suggested that there may be a political element here as well, because of some desire for military operability. Mm-hmm. And so it would be almost unfair to let DND take the rap entirely for these.
Well, I mean, how do I say this? This current government is not particularly transparent, so we're not sure exactly what went on. What I can suggest, though, is that fixed-wing search and rescue is not quite as sexy a procurement as stealth fighter jets, and that for political reasons this may have not been a priority the last 5 or 10 years. We're not actually talking about a major procurement here. Mr. Webb mentioned the fact that some of the Canadian main planes are actually relatively inexpensive, $15–30 million per aircraft that are already in commercial use in Canada, so that the actual maintenance process would be also quite cost efficient. We're talking about a couple of F-35 aircraft in terms of the total cost of replacing the whole fixed-wing search and rescue fleet. So this is not a particularly big-ticket procurement, but it's not one that has been all that high a priority, because it doesn't carry the same kind of media attention and therefore the same degree of public concern. I would suggest that as it becomes more and more apparent that Canadians are losing their lives because we haven't replaced the old planes, that maybe this will become more salient in future. I want to avoid that happening. Want to ensure that DND moves forward in in a rigorous and expeditious way to hold a competition, and that these Canadian planes be part of the consideration. They're very reliable planes. They're low-cost planes. They're made in Canada, and they may well be the solution to what is a rapidly growing problem.
If Bombardier can do a viable search and rescue plane, as you've outlined, is this also a potential export sale for it?
Yes, and indeed, it's already an export market for Bombardier. These planes, the Q400s, are being sold as maritime patrol planes to other countries.
Search and rescue as well? That's a different function, right?
They are. It's a related function in that they do have drop hatches to drop life rafts and other things, and certainly there is significant overlap there. Now the Q400s are being exported for a very similar role. Viking, which would be the Canadian plane maker that would produce new Buffaloes, which has the rights for the de Havilland line of aircraft, already produces brand new Twin Otters, has sold 80 of them around the world already. They are fully modernized aircraft, glass cockpits, the latest technology, but they're based on the Twin Otter platform, one of the most rugged and proven utility aircraft in the history of not just Canada but the world. So if we're looking at Q400s and Buffaloes as serious competitors here, these are proven aircraft. These are the de Havilland line of aircraft that opened up northern Canada, that have served the Canadian population extremely well and are sold around the world. So again, there's very low risk with the alternatives that we are suggesting should be considered. We don't know what the repair and maintenance cost of an Osprey vertical lift aircraft would be, right? We know what the repair and maintenance cost of a Q400 would be because they're repaired and maintained every day here in Canada with the commercial fleets. Alors, s'il n'y a pas des autres questions, merci beaucoup pour votre attention. C'est une question très importante aux questions des vies des Canadiens qui sont au risque tous les jours des dangers environnementaux. Et à cause de ça, c'est nécessaire, c'est absolument nécessaire d'avoir des nouvelles avions de recherche et sauvetage. Et si c'est possible, d'avoir des avions qui sont faits au Canada par des Canadiens, nous pensons que ça sera une bonne idée. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.